Hey everybody, we're doing another patch. I have several videos doing patch process. The reason I have so many videos is because I'm a drywall repairman. This is what I do daily. Basically, I'm having these videos, so if you see a project that you're trying to do, you can say, hey, that's what I'm trying to do. Let me watch this video. Basically, this is just like a 2x2 patch. The plumber had to open it up to put a splice on his pipes. First thing I want to do is always put down plastic, mask the area to contain the mess. On this one, I'm using a pencil, just marking the pipes. If there are pipes in the wall that are close to the drywall, always mark your pipes so you don't put any screws through it. After you get everything marked off your studs, you always want to add backing. You could add backing horizontally, vertically, diagonally. The whole goal here is just to have some backing framing to screw your original sheetrock or new sheetrock to. With this, I'm using 1x2 backing. You can use 1x2s, 2x2s, 2x4s, whatever you have. Wood sheeting, whatever it takes to get wood backing behind the patches. Always add wood backing. On this cutout, I'm using the original pieces that they cut out. If you have the original pieces and they're in good shape, you can always reuse them. If not, you're going to have to use new sheetrock. Once you get the pieces installed, add plenty of screws, make sure everything's nice and tight. You don't want the patch to move around once you get it secured. Always follow through with a 6-inch knife and scrape your areas before you tape the seams. We're scraping it with a 6-inch knife to remove any boogers, goobers, any clumps, any high spots, stuff like that. So when we put the fiberglass tape on, it lays nicely, nice and flat. We don't want no humps and stuff, so when we go mudding, the mud goes on nice and smooth. It doesn't hit any humps or high areas. That's why we always scrape our areas before we tape. With this, I'm using a fiberglass mesh tape. I always use fiberglass mesh tapes on all my drywall repairs. There are other type of tapes out there, paper tapes, stuff like this, but just use a fiberglass tape. Fiberglass tape is meant for repair work. We use paper tape in bigger jobs when you're taping several sheets of drywall, fire taping, or maybe taping angles. But anything else repair work, we use fiberglass mesh tape. Once you get everything fiberglass, go ahead and mix your mud. You could either use a 5-minute mud, 20-minute mud, 40-minute mud, 90-minute mud, or a regular joint compound. If you use regular joint compounds, you're going to have to let it set up overnight to do your second coat process. On this job, I'm using a 5-minute mud so I can finish the job in one trip. With this 5-minute mud, you have to work quickly. What I'm doing now is just filling in the gaps of the fiberglass, basically pushing it in to get inside the grooves of the fiberglass mesh tape. Just doing a nice heavy first coat. I'm not putting it on super thick. I don't want a big hump on the wall. Everybody thinks you just coat a big old hump on the wall. The whole idea is just to put the mud where it's needed and feather it out. Just do a nice first coat. Let it set up. Make sure your edges are nice and feathered out. You don't want a big heavy edge, real deep edge. So we always take the patch out further from the fiberglass seams. Once your mud sets up, depending on the type of mud you use, this is a 5-minute mud, so it's about 4 to 6 minutes. I'm doing a wet slick out technique. This is a very common technique that we use with all hot muds. I just wet the edges of this patch. You always want to get rid of the edges so that feathers into the original texture. And now I'm just slicking it out. I'm just taking off the extra materials. This is a sponge slick out technique. This technique is used with all hot muds. When you use joint compounds, you have to sand joint compounds. But with this hot muds, you have to work with the material as it sets up. You don't just put a hot mud on and walk away. You have to actually work with the hot mud as it's setting up doing this slick out technique. A lot of people think you can sand hot mud. You can, but I don't recommend it. Once you get it all slicked out, now you follow through with a nice second coat. The mud consistency is just a little thinner than the first coat, and now we're just taking the patch past the original first coat. I'm not doing a super heavy tech coat here. I'm just skimming it out nice and tight. The first coat and slicking out already made a nice patch. The second coat process is basically a nice smooth coat. We always want to go past our first coat or prior coat with the Once it's all second coated, let your materials set up. If you're working with hot muds like I am, same thing like first coat. You're sponging off the edges, getting rid of that edges. We call it killing the edges. You always have to get rid of that edge when you do textures to blend into the original wall. Same thing here, just slicking it out, slicking it out. Just see how I'm working the knife. Always use a 6-inch knife, especially if you don't do a lot of mud work. Just concentrate on using a 6-inch knife until you master a 6-inch knife. Everybody thinks you just pick up tools and you're ready to rock and roll, but some of these knives, it's a technique. So you want to have control over your knife. We call it knife control. You slick it out, you're taking off the extra materials. That's all slicking out technique is. It's kind of like a wet sanding. Let's say if I'm working with cement or ceramics, it's pretty much the same thing. You're just manipulating the material as it's setting up. Now I'm going the opposite direction, slicking it out. Basically, you want to get the second coat patch. The finish, if I painted it right now, it'd be a perfect smooth patch. Everybody thinks when you texture hides imperfections. No, texture is just a cosmetic finish. Your patch has to be perfect before any texture process. Clean your tools as you go along. Always keep a clean bucket. This is a spray splatter, so I'm using a hide hopper. There's several hoppers out there, but I like this hide hopper. It's small and easy. It has direct point texture, so texture's not going everywhere. It's precise pattern. There's nothing to a splatter. I'm just using an air compressor, materials, and I'm keeping the materials. I'm going up and down, up and down. Nice vertical motions, keeping everything nice, consistent pattern. Up and down, and then I'll take the patch spray past the patch to blend it in. Then usually you want to cross it off, go the opposite direction. You just want a nice fill in. We are using a regular joint compound, so we want to make sure this material is on thick enough because it will shrink back a little bit. All joint compounds shrink back the next day. Feather it out, nice clean finish. Once you're done, put all your tools away, and then you can pull your mask and clean up the area, put all your tools away, clean up, and just let this patch dry for at least 24 hours with the joint compounds at 24-hour dry time. Then you can turn around the next day with splatters. You don't sand splatters, so you just let it dry overnight, and then you can turn around and primer and paint the following day. But hey, I hope this video was helpful. Please subscribe, like. I have several videos on patching, so I hope these help you get your job completed. If you're not comfortable, hire a professional. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.